Hello, everybody. Come on in, please. Am I going? I'm going and just nobody's listening to me. Hello.
Yep.
They rang the bell out there. Nobody's listening. They're coming. Okay, the sooner we sit down, the better. It's quiet.
That's okay. So that's live for you.
Well, you must have listened intently and all that energy was pent up. So a cup of tea's released it. I'm going to start with the notices because when we get on to the rest of tonight's thing, you're just not going to want to hear from me again at the end. So let's get the notices underway. Firstly, a quick overview of what's happening in the program next week. First of all, and Di's already talked about a hand in for print number 1, so make sure you get your prints sorted out this week. And then we got 2 sessions next week. The first one is the vertical panorama. So where's Chris? Here he is over here. Chris is going to bring along some amazing pictures and he's going to talk for a while on how he makes these incredible panoramas, essentially looking straight up or around. So it's good pano stuff. That'll be an interesting tech session at 7 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock session, we're going to spend some time going through the 2026 program. So consider it an extension of tonight's talk, where it was about how we did it. This time, next week, we're going to talk specifically about what happens and what to look forward to, and we're going to give you all a copy of the program so everybody will know what's going on. Anyway, so that's what's happening next week. The other thing I want to talk about before we start is I got this email today, which is completely appropriate, given our talk that we're having tonight. And this comes from the Elmwood Park Croquet Club, who are having their 100th anniversary croquet game, I suppose, but of them going. And they sort of panicky rang me up today and said, is there any chance if somebody could come along and be an official photographer? They said they're prepared to make a donation to the photographer or some money to the club or something. But it's a wonderful opportunity to have a crack at being a PJ photographer. And we've got the best PJ photographer to talk to you tonight. So you're going to be able to pick up those skills that you heard about tonight and then go and have an opportunity. I've got the piece of paper here, which is the introduction. Whoever wants it comes and sees me afterwards. We'll get it first. First up, first served gets to go. You can probably, 2 or 3 of you could probably go if you want to.
Yeah, it'd be more of you than the croquet players.
Yeah, true. I can only pretend to read it because I haven't got my glasses on, but it's written on here. Okay, that is what's happening. But now I get the opportunity to introduce Peter Meecham. But before we start, I'd like a bit of a show of hands about who in this room reads the press.
Tremendous.
Who in this room actually reads the piece of paper press? Look at that. Most of us have been reading the press since we were 13, probably, so it's a pretty good indication about how important that is. And Peter has been a press photographer third time round?
Third time.
Third
Slow
time
learner.
round, so he's been and run away and been and run away, so the press has a big magnet that draws him back the same way it draws you all to read it. So, you know, it is a sort of really key part of Christchurch. So just the indication of who uses it is a good indicator. How this came about is Peter put out, there was a press article of his 5 photographs of last year, Diana saw them and said, "Oh, give this guy a call. He'd be a great speaker." And Peter's spoken here before sometime.
Gee, a
It was
while ago now. Yeah.
But anyway, and I looked at it, and the 5 photos were really awesome. And then there was another 5 last year, so it sounds like this is a thing he does regularly. So I rang him up, and he was super keen, and I think it's going to be a fantastic talk. I've just made it as loose as possible, so he's going to talk, and you can ask questions as you go, and he's going to tell stories, and it'll be fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Meecham.
Thanks, team. I appreciate coming along, and I know you guys are avid photographers. That's fantastic. I've been very, very lucky. I've spent my whole life, or my whole professional life, doing this. So, 37, 38 years odd. Since I started as a cadet, straight out of school, local newspaper, and went from there. And it's sort of gone downhill from then on, really. Now, what I'll do is, if I can, I'll just open this up. Apologies. Command A. I should be able to do a slideshow here. So what I'll try and do is do a slideshow. And then I will transitions, wait for space bar, right. This will give you an idea how long I've been doing it. Tell me where it is. Exactly, okay? News picture, okay? This is a really basic news picture. Shot, well, I would have been about 17, 18 years old when I shot this. 1990, Queen visited Queenstown. You got to find a photo that shows where you are, puts her in context. It's all very well having a photo of the Queen. It's not much good if you don't know where she is. So, and royal tours, as some of you older people will know, were massive. You know, back when the Queen came, there was 5 or 6 people deep, everywhere. I don't know if, you know, King Charles came, whether he'd have quite that pull nowadays, but it was a really massive thing. So I started my photographic journey at the Otago Daily Times and the Alexandra office and the Central Otago News, which was owned by Allied Press. So I was paid half by the Central Otago News, half by the ODT, and I stayed there for about 2.5 years, and then I went to Dunedin, worked for the ODT in Dunedin for about 4 years before I came to the press in '94 for my first time at the press. Back then, we were shooting black and white, manual focus, Nikon FM2s. We were developing, obviously, in darkrooms. So Queenstown was a rush, as you can well imagine. You know, you had to get Alexandra, actually, because I grew up just out of Clyde, between Clyde and Alexandra. Went to school at the high school there. Got my job at the Central Otago News. Funny story, I'll just relate. So I knew I was interested in photography at school. We didn't have a photography class. We had an art class, and in like my 5th form year, which is year 11 to younger people, it was, you know, they built a new art class, and there was a darkroom. But even the art teachers didn't know how to use it. So it was really quite tricky. You know, we just felt our way along, literally, and figured out how to do it and developed black and white film. Had a bit of a go. I thought, oh, maybe I'd like to do this. I had no clue. My English teacher in my last year at school, 7th form, was Claire Stevens. Kerry, her husband, owned the Central Otago News at the time, and not long after that it got bought by the ODT, but Kerry must have seen a photo that I took, thought, oh yeah, whose is that photo? Said to Claire, and she said, oh, it's Peter Meecham, you know, he plays rugby and does athlete. Oh, I know Pete, he's a nice lad, you know, tell him he wants to come in and do a bit of work. You know, I can't pay him much, but he can help out at the weekends. And I can remember going home to my mum and saying, Mum, Mr. Stevens wants me to go and work at taking photos at the newspaper. How boring. And she said, you haven't got a job. Why don't you go and see what it was like? So I reluctantly turned up, and he gave me this camera gear that I just thought was out of this world good. He gave me a car, and he gave me a list of jobs, like 5 jobs I had to do at the weekend. And the first job I ever did was the beer festival at the Town and Country Club. Oh no, the home brew competition at the Town and Country Club in Alexandra. And of course I was 17. It was great. I thought, I'm going to go to the pub. So I couldn't believe it. Someone was going to pay me, I mean, $10 a published photo wasn't much, but someone was going to pay me to go to something I would have gone to for free. And that was it. I thought there was no sort of telling the truth or, journalistic integrity at that point. I just thought, wow, I can make a living out of doing something cool. Dunedin. This is a few years later. This is 1992, 93. Student riots, fees had just come in. This is not the average job back then. This is a little unusual, but this was pretty ugly. Funnily enough, one of the guys that's in the photo, it might not have been this photo, but one of the photos that was on the front page of the ODT ended up photographing his wedding a few years later. So, hey, you just never know. He's a mate of mine. I still know this guy's name. His name's Mike Bryan. He was a kayaker. This was shot in the Kawara Gorge, 3200 T-Max, 3200 ISO film, 1000 at 2.8, Canon, Nikon FM2 with a 180 manual focus. So it was a lot harder to get a good action shot back then probably, but I was pretty happy with that at the time. Oh, right by the Roaring Meg, just upstream from the Roaring Meg. They have a kayak course they race down there. So that was the national championships. Okay, so modern day. This is up Lake Coleridge. This is Lake Coleridge, nice little, fantail. These are same trip. Go up there. My son works now. My son's 22. He's a ranger for the fishing game, so I quite often, go out and go with the guys and see if I can get some nice images out of it. This is one of the pictures that was in the thing Ian was saying about. This is the same trip. Drone, obviously. I'm not that tall. Yeah, so that is the side of Lake Georgina. I think it's Lake Georgina, and they are tyre tracks from a 4-wheel drive in that who's been driving around, right? So getting a different perspective on things in the snow, it's kind of cool. Just want to. The thing with our job is we try to take the ordinary and make something interesting out of it, and we have to generally do it in a really short space of time. We don't get a huge amount of time to think about it. This was this year at the winning of the New Zealand Cup. So, the action's actually behind me, where the horses are finishing. I don't care about that. I've got, Kai, one of our other photographers, was actually shooting that, so I shouldn't say I don't care about that. Someone else was doing it, so I had to find, and there's a big crowd, as you know, there's a big crowd, and you never quite know where the owners are going to be, so you've got to kind of figure out who's getting really excited, and then you try to get as close as you can and try to get a picture of it. So most of the work we do as news photographers, or visual journalists as they call us now, is people. So we photograph people nearly all the time. People like these guys are all disabled, and they have a fantastic show where they perform, and they're practicing, and this guy, he's into it. It's fantastic. We go to interesting places. This is the West Coast, Kiwi program. Obviously, they have a fenced off area, predator-free area. She goes in with a radio thing and finds the kiwi and dives into the bush and pulls it out. So this is a still picture, but there's a video that's probably more interesting. So we shoot video as well. So we will shoot video when it's a story like this, and we'll shoot stills and video. So we're way more hybrid than we used to be. We used to just take stills, but now we're way more If you guys have got questions or how I photographed something, what I was using, just ask. It's fine. I mean, or rather than me just talking at you, if you guys have got questions, like this was earlier, well, this was last year. I was overdoing a thing near Governor's Bay, basically, and just photographing some people. I think it was for a guy who does winter swimming. So I'm photographing him, and I see these guys jumping off the hill, coming over the back, and I thought, oh, that's cool. And then I saw the moon. So this is shot on a 100-500 with a Canon R5. Had to go up the hill quite a bit. Tried to get the angle and just sort of hope that the paraglider was going to come close enough to the moon and try to sort of get it on the same angle as the moon. I was a bit lucky, but luck comes into it all the time. So that's. I mean, now we were talking before about can you doctor photos? Essentially, we can't. We'll be sacked. Simple as that. So this is not straight. I mean, I've adjusted brightness, contrast, etc., but that's off the camera. So what I've done is I've shot with them a set of extenders on a 2470 macro, and everything goes upside down. Obviously, you guys probably know that. And you get close, and that was a glass table, and I knew it was going to rain. So I had this idea. So I knew, bad weather. How am I going to make something interesting out of? We get 1,000 shots of somebody driving through a puddle, spraying everywhere. So I was round near Girls High, and I thought, there's some glass tables in there, and so I went in, and there was some, dark. So it's tar seal, makes it easier. You need a dark background so it contrasts it. So you think about these things as you're shooting them. Oh, probably. You probably could, but in that case I didn't. But no, they wouldn't get that anal about things because yeah. But because we all the time we get people to pose for a portrait, right? It's obviously a portrait. But we do. In the old days we used to jack things up really heavily. We don't so much now. We try to be as real as we can. This is Athol in Northern Southland. If anyone's been down there, this is actually our family batch. My cousin, auntie and uncles and that own that place there. So we were fishing and got up one morning, and my gosh, really spectacular. Piha. Now there's certain events that are just gold for pictures, right? And the Day of Giants is one of them. So the Day of Giants is the surf boat racing at Piha, and it's just nuts. Like this isn't even the worst. like that's some absolutely it's next level crazy when it's big out there, and they still keep doing it, and it's the most macho thing you've ever seen. God, and these girls they came off second best. So that's the top of Lake Sumner where Huranui comes into it. So just one evening fishing. This is a mate of mine. This is an organised picture, by the way. This is absolutely a jacked up picture. So we needed to show, this is actually not for an editorial, it was for the Energy Environment Commission. I think they wanted a whole lot of pictures of showing people sort of, being environmentally friendly, trying to bike to work, and so I've shot this in the mirror of the car. As Damon's gone past, I had a flash out the back, so I've lit him with a flash. So the exposures, so it's brightened him up, made him more punchy, made the sky look more moody and dark by underexposing a little. So, the way you expose and the way you sort of think about these things, and there was a bit of trial and error there. Damon did a bit of riding that day in the rain. He loves it. This is up Mount Nicola Station on the other side of Lake Wakatipu. I was doing some stuff over there for Icebreaker, So, you know, you're just out and you're finding nice images, Glendew Bay, Wanaka, similar sort of thing. Simple, yeah. Again, we don't really we don't change the clouds. We don't do any of that. None of these are doctored in that way. Dog trials, another brilliant event to cover. You know, like dog trials. You can guarantee the croquet will be good. There'll be some characters there. You'll see them. It'll be cool, right? Cat show in Invercargill, which, you know, great subject, pretty easy. But again, you know, my background's not particularly good here. If I was, yeah, oh yeah, well that's an old picture. So that's an original Nikon D1 digital camera. So that'd be one of the first, you know, professional digital cameras out. So they aren't yeah, no, absolutely. It's dark too. It will be dark in that stadium. But again, the background's not great. If it was blue, the whole background would probably be more effective, but, you know. This is a really old picture. This is shot on a Bronica 6x6 transparency film just down the road from where I grew up. If you went right, probably a kilometre down the road, that's where I grew up. So, and this is a classic example, right? Things that seem ordinary to you are extraordinary to other people. Does that make sense? So you know, hoarfrost in Central Otago happens every second year, or it used to happen every year. You know, so we was over it. We didn't want to do it. You know, but beautiful. And so you'd photograph it, and people would go, "Oh my gosh," and you say, "Oh no, I'm sick of it." You know. That's Taylor's. Yeah. So that's up top of Taylor's, over the back of Taylor's. I do a bit of mountain biking, and this is quite a few years ago now. That's shot on a point and shoot, and we're talking about flash cameras. That's literally a little Olympus Mew. And it was, actually no, it might have been a digital camera, so it's probably it wasn't the Mew, it was something else, but a little point and shoot. So Sinead Hanlon, so she owns stuff. Sinead's younger brother, Kevin, is a fish whisperer. He can catch fish anywhere. So, you know, opening season, I thought, oh gosh, what am I going to do? So I rang Kev. Kev, do you want to come and, you know, can you catch a fish for me? Yep, no problem, Pete. So we went down the south branch of the Waimak, where it goes, you know, into the groins there. And he caught this thing in about 20 minutes. And I've got a fish tank with my camera in it, and I push it sort of half underwater, and I've got a little bit of flash on the fish. There's a bit of mucking around. You can't see what you're doing, but eventually, hopefully, you'll get a good frame. That's quite old, that picture too. That's a long time ago. This is my mate at the top of Mount Grey. You know, interesting weather makes interesting pictures, and you know, so we were going through, and she was a hard day. That I'll tell you. It wasn't again, shot on that same point and shoot as the other one. So good gear absolutely helps, but doesn't mean you need it to get a good frame, if that makes sense. This is on the way Kaikoura. I'm just up there one morning. I was going up. When I was working for myself, I did a lot of work for foodstuffs. So I was going up and I was doing some work at New World and in Kaikoura, and these were there on the way. So a lot of video for commercial clients. This was a colour picture, but it was black and white. It's a class for CPOD, chest, and this poor guy, you know, they're waving their things. That was their exercise class. He couldn't even do that, poor guy, you know. So just that's your classic news picture or feature picture, do with a news story. The races. The race, you know, and we're asking before, do you ask before you take a photo? I would never ask at the races to take a picture. I would always just sit back and see what happens. And I mean, they did it, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, and like, you can imagine, like, the question is what happened after, right? Like, and actually I thought, God, this guy's going to get a punch in the head, like she's just going to slap him. But she just turned around and laughed, and they all had a laugh, and away they went, like he was just a bunch of idiots and drinking too much. And I've actually got a bit of a photo essay that I did a while in the early 2000s of, that sort of uneasy relationship that New Zealanders have with alcohol and sport and the whole. Because I shot a lot of sport over the years. I've done multiple All Black tours, Rugby World Cups, a number of Olympics, summer and winter. So I've been really, really fortunate that I've had opportunities to do these things. This is your average night out in Hamilton. This is actually the 2005 Lions tour. So all the Lions supporters went out and they all on the booze and you're just walking around at 2 a.m, seeing what happens and yeah. So I've shot it with a flash, but it's a really slow shutter speed. So I've sort of frozen it a little bit. That can backfire on you. I'm a bit lucky there, but and we know who this gentleman is. This is pretty standard stuff for a news job. You'll go, you'll turn up, you'll wait for John, election night, and you're outside John's Key's place in Parnell waiting for him, and then you have like 10 seconds as he comes past and he waves in the car, and you've got to get a picture. And that's kind of what we do, the big difference between us and probably commercial photographers and people, you guys have got time, right? You can think about something and you can go, I got it wrong, I'll go back and do it again. No, we can't do that, really. I mean, unless we're doing a feature or something, we really can't. You get one chance, you either get it or you don't. No, I don't do that. I really don't. I don't like doing, it's not my thing. Like, I'll do politicians because they're part of our news cycle, but if somebody said to me, can you go and try and get Beyonce? Nah, not interested. Never have been. I like actually talking to people, and I'll talk more on that, as we go along, but, New Zealand has had this is Fiji, coup in 2000. So this guy, we travelled into the highlands in a van. This Fijian Indian guy, Fijian native guys, there's a whole lot of unrest. They burnt his house down. He came back. He came back to find his house burnt down. He's crying his eyes out. Terrible, bizarre situations. First female winner of the steeplechase in Auckland. I can't remember the name of the steeplechase. Nice. You're looking for pictures like this. So they come back down into the bird cage, and they're excited, and you're looking for a shot. And there was a wide shot, but I was shooting on a 400mm lens there, so it's a 400-2.8. Yeah, I know. I had to ask the horse to smile. Fiji coup again. You're looking for those contrasts when you're shooting stuff. You look for, firearms and kids and, stuff like that. Again, I didn't ask for this kid. Didn't ask permission. Just shot. They probably never saw it, but it was, people were scared. So you got to tell these stories. This is in Invercargill. So for a while, I was chief photographer at the Southland Times. Her house was burning down behind me. Huge fire. And we got, and now this is a good example of, so I photographed her. She didn't know I was photographing her. And then we got phone call, we don't want any photos used, and it's awful. And we had, so that was in July. This picture was taken, I think. And there was 23 house fires in Invercargill in that time, and within a month. And we were like, this is a massive issue, because everyone burns coal, no one cleans their chimneys properly. There was literally, and 3 of them were fatal house fires. So we were like, we got to run the picture. This is actually what the effect on people is. And actually, after we run it, she rang and said, I'm actually okay about it now. But at the time, she was quite. Athens Olympics, opening ceremony, like slow shutter speed. You're trying to get something different. There's all kinds of things happening in front of you. It's all pretty new and exciting. Again, you're using a shutter speed. The background here is why it works. It's because you've got a nice, clean background. You've got a bright white poi. They're spinning, and there's quite a few photos taken to get that one. Because most of them, the faces will be moving and not sharp or whatever. Like you're rolling the dice a bit. Digital cameras are great when it comes to things like that. Okay, this is the start of a photo essay. These are shot in colour, but we use the photo and use them in black and white, and it's the Miss New Zealand competition. So, I'm trying to, and it's behind the scenes of the Miss New Zealand competition. So these are all fly on the wall pictures. I shot this with a little camera, not a great big DSLR. It was something quiet. I can't remember what it was. It was what year? About 2010, 2011. I think this, Auckland. It was Auckland. Yeah, Auckland. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, my apologies. It's Auckland. Yeah. So Auckland Town Hall. It's quite hard to do a pic like this and have the girls, because they love getting their picture taken, right? They want to look at you, but you're like, no, you guys, so you just got to wait until they ignore you eventually. They get sick of you and they get bored. So, it was a little bit surreal, to be fair. You shoot something from a different angle. So I'm up some stairs and I'm looking down, and I'm always weary, looking down on a woman in short tops. It's like not, you're making a bit nervous. But then they do something kind of cool, and that's the reality of it, So I don't think the organisers like these. I don't think they really like the pictures. Anyone know who this is? Dave Cunliffe. This is when he announced his resignation. So he was ringing his caucus mates out on the beach. So this is down. So I went round and they said, see if you can get a photo of David at his house. He won't pose, but see if he's there. So I went there, and there's so David lives in a Herne Bay, really nice area. And there's his house is there, and there's a park that you can look into his property. And I thought, oh, he's not there, And I thought, oh, I'll walk down the beach and see if there's a different angle. And as I walked down the beach, I looked down and I thought, guy's got, what's that guy sitting there in his shirt? And I didn't recognise him because he had the back to me. And then I thought, no, it can't be. So I thought, oh, I'll just walk. So I walked around the side of the beach. I had a 500mm long lens. Like, this is a real crop off a 500 f4. And he was there for 2 hours talking and on the phone, talking to his mates, and talking to see if he had support, which he didn't. Winter Olympics, 2006, Australian snowboarder in the half pipe. So the general rule with sport, and I've shot a lot of sport, is the bigger the event, the more restrictions are placed upon you. So getting great pitch, the athletes are amazing, but the access is more and more difficult the higher the level of. So if you go to do a kids rugby game, you can stand on the field, right? If you go to do a club rugby game, you've probably got to stand at the end or anywhere around the field. If you go to a Canterbury game, you've got to get an accreditation, and you're not allowed to stand in front of the billboards because it's advertising and all this sort of stuff. If you go to Super Rugby, you're allowed at the ends, probably. If you go to All Blacks, you've got to have a special bib, and you've got to get permission and this sort of thing. So it's quite, sport's great, but so this is during the 2005 Lions tour as well. That's Manawatu, obviously, and this fella's calling his mum. I'm on TV, Mum. This is what I was talking about. This is the cricket. This is the guy being removed from the cricket, and he's still got his hot dog. it's really easy to get a photo of a guy getting dragged out of like anywhere for a sporting event, too much drink, all that sort of thing. But yeah, you look for the little quirky things, right? This is a portrait shot out at Brighton. Um, uh, Tusiata Avia, she's a poet. Tusiata's quite an intelligent woman. And I sort of said, oh, look, I want to get a shot, something a little different. So she had this colourful outfit on. I said, why don't we go down the beach? And I thought I could get a moody sky and that sort of thing. And then we saw this. This just happened to be there. It's down by the South Brighton Surf Life Saving Club. They'd set up some. I think it might have been for someone's wedding or something. I'm not too sure. And there was a couple of birds, a couple of seagulls flying over, but we went and got some fish and chips. And we just kind of, and I had her daughter or someone helping me, and I said, oh, you put the chips there and we'll see if they come over. They did, and we got a bunch of pictures of all these seagulls flying, and it worked out pretty well, But you got to be, that's Annabelle Langbein, obviously, for those of you who don't know who she is. She's a chef, and this is in Auckland. And this is a pretty typical cover picture for the Sunday magazines. They want us to do a portrait of. So you go and Annabelle makes something, and you have a bit of a chat, and she was good. We had a bit of time, but normally you wouldn't have much time. You would normally be rushing through things. You will have the reporter will sit there and talk to them for an hour. Then they'll oh, we've got 5 minutes. Oh, you better take a photo. So that kind of is the way it rolls, and we just roll with it. Unless with this particular thing. Invercargill Town Hall, Bikronga, singing, lovely light, nice, great songs. She's cool. Young version of Jamie Oliver. This is for the New Zealand Herald when I was working up there. Again, like this was, you go into a hotel room, you get up, you got 15 minutes, and the reporter takes, 13 and a half, and then you go, God, we've got to get a photo of you, Jamie. And I said, what have we got? And there was luckily there was like a little bit of a kitchen. And I said, oh, yeah, hold this knife and stand by the window. And, you got to try and make the best of a thing in a very short space of time. It's just a portrait of league player, Kiwi, can't remember his name, good player. Yeah, Benji Marshall, sorry, yeah. This is my daughter, she's 20 now. She's been in the paper lots, and she doesn't want to be in the paper anymore, but she was really good, we had some story about, winter fun or something, and we had to, so I got Grace to blow bubbles, and she thought it was cool. This is Paris Goebel, she's an international dancer, South Auckland, cool chair, different angle, light's good because she had a studio where they all used to practice. She's done work with Madonna and all kinds of people. She's quite an interesting woman. She looks quite different now. Another leaguey portrait. You go to a workout session. These guys are good. Like he's a great guy. He's happy to do stuff for you. They know how. The league boys and the professional athletes generally know, hey, it's in my best interest to kind of work with these guys, and they're always happy to do it. So Central Otago, these are just a bunch of portraits. So she's at Lake Hawe Station, and just found a nice wall. John Campbell, great guy, John. I don't know, he may be somewhat polarising, but I tell you what, in real life, the guy's a lovely bloke. My kids would play rugby, and his kids would turn up, and the kids were 10 or 11 years old. He'd come over to them and say, "Guys, you're doing awesome," and they all loved him, and he was a lovely bloke. So he was always happy to do stuff for Rees Valley Station in Glenorchy. I don't know if she's still there, but she was there for a hell of a long time. She ran it by herself. Her husband died at a young age. This is really typical. So when you're on an All Black tour, or you're dealing with the All Blacks, they have a really tight, you get in for 20 minutes and you can talk to So this is Jose Gear. So Jose was, starting at the weekend. So you think, wow, I need a picture. I've got to get something interesting, and I'm in a room, and there's a whole lot of downlights. So I get him to stand under a downlight, and we try and get something that's usable. Otherwise, it's just so boring. But we look for light. We look for the way the light, and we don't look for how much light there is generally. It's just more the way how the light falls. So you try and make something interesting, and you get shape. She was a dancer. Nice clean wall, good light, different light. This is obviously lit with a flash. So I've backlit it from the side, so it's lit up he was a, promising young tennis player. This would be fairly old now, this picture too, Some of these are quite old, sorry guys. Dan Aykroyd, Ghostbusters and the Blues Brothers and stuff. He has Crystal Skull vodka, so this is a PR company. This is one of the only guys I actually asked to get a photo with because he's really cool. I love the Blues Brothers. Like he was a good dude. So yeah, this is a caricature of himself in an iPad. Got him to hold it in front of him. So you're trying to do stuff that's different. Lou Vincent, cricketer, retiring. He lives on the Kuiper Heads. So we went out and I was working for this is for the Sunday Star Times. I was running the bureau in Auckland, and we went out and had a chat to Lou when he retired. And he's had a few demons, the poor bugger. He's a lovely bloke. Couple of Olympic kayakers. That's Paul, what's his name? Ian Ferguson's son. That's a flash, and it might have had some. I've got the reporter to hold it high, off to the left-hand side of the frame. As the sun's coming up, this is over on the North Shore. There's the practice lake there. There might be a little bit of baking paper or something taped over the front just to diffuse it slightly, but that's I can't remember, to be honest. But yeah, good question. Yeah, if you're doing, if you're using light, we don't use big studio lights. We use speed lights, and yeah. We do have we got some Allen chroms at work, but we don't use them that much, to be honest. Sometimes the best picture's not someone's face. It's he's a blacksmith down Morehouse Ave. He closed now, but had a dirt floor. And Dave Dobbin. Yeah, so Dave's a lovely guy. He's really keen on photography. He's a real keen photographer, Dave. So if you ever get Dave, you want him to he'll do it because he's what are you trying to do? So you tell him, and that's half the trick, right? If you're trying to organise and jack a picture up, if you tell someone what you want to do, sometimes it's way easier, right? They get, or you can, and digital cameras are fantastic for that because you can show them. You say, "Hey, I'm trying to do this," and they'll go, "Oh, okay, I get it." So they'll do it, if it's a portrait of some sort. Sometimes you don't want to organise a photo, right? So this is a Down syndrome lad with his mum, and you just look for moments between people. That's why I love it, because you don't ever know what's going to happen, and you get these lovely, beautiful moments with people. I think frankly, I think there's far too much negativity in the news media. I don't, the pictures I chose this year, I actually wrote something. They didn't put it in, which sort of, I suppose they wouldn't, but I said, hey, I could have got a dozen, court fights, whatever. People don't want to see that. They see too much of it, People turn the TV off when it's too awful. So my opinion is the newspaper and our news industry needs to be really cognizant of, we get all this crap on social media about Donald Trump, whatever it is, we want to cover our community, our people, and I'm not saying you don't hold the council to account and you have to, when something terrible happens, you've got to report it. I understand that, but I think it's bad news is easy, right? It comes to you. No one rings the paper to say what a fantastic job someone's doing. They always want to complain, right? And we got the cops, we got the courts, we got, fires, we got weather things. It's really easy to, good news, you have to work harder to get good news, especially in New Zealand, because people are so humble. You'll go and you'll say, Ian's doing a great job, and Ian will say, oh no, just get Jim. like they'll just put, so I think it's really important to show the wide, that there's wonderful things happening in the community as well as stuff that we should be concerned about. This is Auckland, early morning, sun's just coming up behind them. I haven't altered the colour much on this at all. This is pretty much how it looked. This was a while ago too, so the old camera's not the best, but Olympics, warm up. I was out there photographing Valerie Adams practicing her shot put at a practice arena. A really interesting story. This guy's name's Darren Robles, and he's a Cuban sprinter, 400-metre hurdles world record holder and Olympic champion. So he's warming up, and I'm taking photos, and he kind of came over to me and said, in broken English, who are you? And I said, oh, I'm from New Zealand. And he shook my hand, and off he went. And I thought that was a bit weird. And then there was a reporter from Associated Press there. Obviously, AP is from the States. And he went over to him and said, oh, I'm speaking from AP. Oh, I'm not speaking to anyone from the States. He just walked off. It's like, yeah, Cubans, eh? they don't like them much, it turns out. She's an actress in Auckland. Little flash put in behind her, plus natural light, tried to find some interesting colour and a nice shape. We all know where that is. That was the 10th memorial of the quake. We're going to have another one coming up very shortly. The action was sort of, I'm on the other side of the river, and I've shot that with a 100, 400 or zoom, I think, from memory. And just a little moment, we all know why. Band Rotunda, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. You guys know this, right? Like golden hour's awesome. You can't go wrong. You just get nice pictures. Little still life kind of thing, and there's a hut up the Nevis Road, ski hut. So just nice light. This is poor old Christchurch College lads watching the boys' high guys give them a touch up at the first 15. Sorry to anyone who's from Christ's, but it's always I saw these poor lads and they just look so bored, so sick of it. I thought, oh no, that's not a bad frame. This is a little unusual. You don't see that much now, right? You don't see people with cash like it used to happen all the time, right? Like everyone had cash and they'd bet and what have you, but now it's a little, so I thought, oh yeah, and then he's got his double glasses on and the whole thing, So you go looking for these characters, and I'm shooting this from here, right? I'm not shooting it right in his face, because I thought, oh, he's probably not going to want to show everyone how much money he's got. Rotherham, the pig hunting competition, and mullets and jeepers. There's dozens of photos like this, right? Out at the Marae National Hui, out at Tuahiwi. These two are the Māori wardens, and they're pretty bored. And again, faces, and this is again the hui. You're looking for what's in, visually what is interesting, and you try to find something. These things can be so boring, like people were just chatting away, and you're thinking, oh God, what am I going to get out of this? But then you see these guys sort of kind of falling asleep, waiting for their turn. Boys High, again, the Boys High First 15 Christ College is one of the great First 15 rivalries in the country. Marvellous to go and photograph it if you're lucky enough. Difficult to get in if it's at Boys High, really difficult, because the principal doesn't particularly, or headmaster doesn't like the media being there. Fortunately, I managed to get in because, well, my son played for the first 15 there for a year, so when we came back from Auckland, so I was a bit lucky. This is cool. This is at Ferrymead, right? You know, you always look for little, the kids having a great time. You know, we've all done that when we were a kid, right? Mount Maunganui, surf boat racing. Again, amazing events, certain things are great to photograph. This is one of those boxing events at out West Auckland. Just a bit of timing. That was at the time I was shooting. That was the first day I had to go with the 1DXs, one of the Canons. This is the US Olympic, the US disabled rugby team. They beat New Zealand in the final, and you can't quite tell, but this dude who's picking him up is just enormous. He would have been 6'8". He was huge. But this is a really good example, this picture of, so Kirk Hargraves, who now works for the council, Kirk was a photographer, and he was photographing the Kiwis, and just having that extra thing, I thought, okay, I'm just going to find something different, and I could photograph the opposition. Normally, because the Kiwis had their head in their hands, obviously, because they'd lost, but actually that was probably a nicer picture. Sophie Pascoe at a young age. This is an organised picture, make no mistake. This is a lot of mucking around for this photo. So we shot this at QE2 in the diving pool, because you need it dead still. You need it. So this is a reflection. The top one's a reflection, and I'm holding the underwater, and I've got her mum. Her mum is holding a flash for me above, and I've exposed it, and then I've got her to go out, and I've got her to go underwater really quietly and then push out, and it took a lot of mucking around to get that picture. And every time I see Sophie, she always chats, we always have a yarn, and now she's got a wee one, and it's kind of cool. She's a lovely person. Oh, that's the surf boat racing at, I'm probably doubling up here a bit, guys. This surf boat, that's the Day of Giants again. New Zealand mountain bike champs at up the Port Hills here. So, you turn up, you go see the riders, and you go, guys, this looks really gnarly. Where's the worst bit? They say, oh, it's just down here, man, and you just wait. They were fine. They got up and kept going. It's good. Olympics, just so hard to shoot that. They're coming over a blind hill. It's the light. I mean, it would have been great if it was a blue sky day. It wasn't, obviously. And yeah, you just, it's so hard to shoot something like that. This is at Treble Cone. This is during training, so it's way easier, right? And you're going down and you're finding a good. That's Hermann Maier, Austrian Olympic champion, multi-time Olympic champion. Absolute huge man. Legs like tree trunks. Super, super fast. Like a different sport. Like the Kiwis were going down this course and they were all out to the side and you didn't know where they were coming. He was like a metronome. He was coming through that course exactly there every time. Quite incredible. Quite an incredible skier. This is a big old crash. There's free skiing. You can't quite tell from this picture, but you see there's no shadow with that ski. That's because it's actually quite a bit forward, and I've shot it on F 16 or something. There's so much light. And it is steep, man. It is dropping steep away. Like, you can't quite tell how steep it is, but he had a big old crash. That guy hurt himself, actually. I felt a bit sorry for him. This is 2004 Olympics. Olympic champion, US Olympic champion, crashed out in the, in the heats. You're at the end of the 100-metre straight, and there's 250 other photographers around you. So you kind of like this, and you're hoping to, so you're looking for stuff that's, interesting. This sort of thing, Usain Bolt wins easily, and the American guy's, poking his tongue out him as they cross the line. Can't beat him. He wasn't wasn't even out of second gear. This is 2008. This is Beijing Olympics. You know, big crash in the first corner. You can't quite see, but his eyes are pretty, you know. Again, long lens. So this is a really good example. So Sarah Walker was competing for New Zealand. You got to get there. She was a medal hope. You know, they were hoping she would get a medal there. She's a really good athlete. She won BMX World Champs a number of times. There was one spot where you could see the whole track and the finish. So you had to get there 2.5 hours at least before the event started. So which meant you got up at 4 a.m, get on a bus, drive for an hour and a half, 2 hours, get there, sit in your spot all day, shooting it for one thing. And then after that, you get on the bus and you go to the another hour away to the claybird shooting thing, you know, the target shooting, and then where the Kiwis didn't do well, and then you drive back on the bus into the bird's nest because Valerie's competing in the final of the shot put. And so Olympics are amazing, the Summer Olympics in particular are amazing, but it is 20-hour days every day for 2 weeks. And I couldn't do 20, so I would do about 10 days, and then I'd have to have a good sleep, and then I could do about another 10. So I figured out, you know, it was just really amazing, and I wouldn't miss it for the world, but tough, really tough. And you know, no room for ego because you've got 3,000 photographers around you trying to get a better picture than you. So you do what you can, and you enjoy it, and you enjoy the atmosphere. This is at Omahi, Michael Godfrey motocross, just looking for nice light, really. This guy's world champ. He was down in Ashburton doing the thing. This could have been shot with a manual wind-on 50mm lens. I mean, I'm that close. He is really close. He's from here to the third row back from me. And there's and he's flipping, but the background was great. The light was nice and the background was great. So, you know, you just get a nice picture. Jarrett Lelewin is his name. He's a world champ. Cadrona, New Zealand free ski champs, extreme skiing. So these guys just do this all the time, and it's normal. I've shot a lot of ski stuff. This is Riccarton. This is shot on film. So this was before, this would be 1998 or something like that, 97 maybe. Steeplechase, obviously. I've put my Nikon F4 or F5, I can't remember. No, F4. Wrapped it in bubble wrap and put a remote on it, and then hoped that none of the horses bloody landed on it or crashed on it. So I put it behind the jump, and as they've come over, I've just kind of pushed the button and hoped for the best. So, and of course it's filmed, so I didn't know what, you get back and think, oh, that's pretty good, Lucky, but they're going to come over in a certain spot, right? And you sort of hope that they're not spread out so much that it's boring. So it was fortunate. Athens, Tom Ashley, New Zealand sailboard, pretty cool background. I like pictures like this. This is the Australian pursuit team. There was some light coming in. This thing had sort of open sides. So I exposed for the light and look for something a little different. Wanaka Rodeo, right? So the Wanaka Rodeo, great pictures at rodeos, okay? But so in between the actual serious people where they get on bulls and do crazy stuff, there was a like a public could have a go, and so there was teams of three, right? And his mates were meant to grab this thing, and he was meant to tie that bit of blue string onto the top tail, but then his mates let it go. And this thing's running around and he's hanging onto the tail. Absolute disaster. It was funny though. This is really an unusual picture. Interaction between the crowd and athletes at an Olympics is unusual because it's quite unusual. So he did a winning run. He's a US free skier. He did it in this freestyle skiing, so he did a big jump, triple twisting back, somersault, whatever they call it, and then he's high-fiving the crowd, which is quite unusual. That is the Flying Tomato, what's his name? He's a snowboarder. Shaun White, very famous snowboarder. That's your typical celebration shot when they're getting in a medal, they'll get a flag, and same thing, 2011 Rugby World Cup, Richie, obviously. That's when 2015 Cricket World Cup, when we knocked them out in the last over, the last ball, where the hairy javelin hit a 6 into the crowd at Eden Park. Great night. So this is a portrait of, so these guys are a club, like a club in Christchurch. So this is out at the airport. And they're into, I think they're called the Legion of Star Wars fans, so they got an official name, Classics. So they've got all these really cool outfits, and actually they were doing a really nice thing. So they turned up because they had a wee boy who had cancer, and it was one of those Make-A-Wish things. So he wanted to go to the moon. So the jet operations out there said, we'll fly him at night up high, and we'll get all the, so they got these guys to turn up like he was going to the moon, and he jumped up and he went in, and he was only 3 or 4 years old, It was lovely, yeah. This is Craigieburn, free skier. I think that might be Sam Hazeldine, I'm not too sure. A very good skier, now a doctor. So Dr. Sam Hazeldine, if everyone says Dr. Hazeldine will see you now, don't see him. He's mad. This is out at Waimak at the again, like, you're looking for nice light, and you go there early and you stay late, and sometimes you get lucky with the light. Over on the west coast, Westport, big floods there a couple of years ago. Pretty typical. There we go. So, any questions, guys? I mean, I'm happy to answer anything if you guys have got questions. I go on a bit, I can tell you a million stories. I've done a bunch. I've worked from one end of the country to the other, like Southland Times, the Otago Daily Times, the Central Otago News, the Press 3 times, the New Zealand Herald. I've worked for the Bureau, the Auckland Bureau for Stuff. So that's Sunday Star Times and the Dominion Post and everyone else. And I've been doing, not quite continuously, for about 8 years. I worked as a commercial photographer, but I had a editorial bent. So I was still doing editorial work. I was still doing a lot of agency work, that sort of thing, when I was in Auckland. And now, I was back here about a year maybe, before the press rang me and said, you want a job, mate? Because they were a bit short-staffed. I'd been in to help out, and I really loved it. I came back, and because I used to be director of photography at the press, and then I was head of visuals up in Auckland. So I was doing a lot of, I was still shooting. I always insisted I still was shooting pictures because I like it. And I think that if you get out of touch with it, you kind of, you lose the ability to empathise with the guys that you're working with, and it's quite a, and it to be frank, it can be quite a, it gets to you sometimes. Sometimes the jobs we do are unpleasant, but it's varied, it's interesting. You never know what you're going to do. Every day's different. Today would be a good example. This morning I did the butcher's apron we did a little toy thing. So down at Peter Tim's Meats, we did a thing about their little caravan there. I then went to court, where there was a woman who's on multiple drug charges, so I had to photograph her in court. We had an application, so we can go into court. You apply to the judge. Judge says yes, you can come and photograph her in court. Photographed her in court. Luckily, she went up quickly, and it didn't there wasn't too much mucking around. Then I shot out to Templeton because there was some kids' swimming classes, so I went and shot that. Then I came back in the afternoon and I put my pictures through, which takes a wee bit of time. I didn't shoot any video today. It's a bit unusual. Normally I would. And then this afternoon I did Colin Monteith. Do you guys know who Colin is? So Colin's a really, you should get him in here, really talented landscape photographer. He's been with a particular interest in, so he has Hedgehog House. So he had Hedgehog House, should I say, which was like an agency for international alpine photography. So mountaineering in particular. Very, very knowledgeable about it. He's just been down to Antarctica photographing for a company down there. You know, and he's in his 70s, well into his 70s. Lovely guy. You know, him and Andrew Sapps are quite good friends. So yeah, Colin's a great guy. So I photographed him this afternoon for a wee yarn that's going in the press in a couple of weeks' time, I think. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about your combination video?
Yep. Yeah, a really good question. You know, it's really hard. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It's not that easy. I've probably embraced it more than some. Like our staff in Christchurch are really all over it, and the guys in Hamilton are, Auckland regions, Timaru, Southland, Nelson, not so much. You know, A, they've got less time because they're shooting lots more stuff. B, they just don't have the, you know, the workflow is quite challenging at times. For a start, you're at an event. Say you're at, you know, the Palestine protest at the, the Bridge of Remembrance, and you've got to decide: am I going to shoot video, or am I going to shoot stills? And the amount of times that I've shot something, I thought, oh, I should have shot that in video, or that would be a great still. You know, you just always. So you can't do both. You've got to do one or the other and then swap between them. And it's really easy to balls things up, especially sound, when you're going between the two.
Do you have one camera set up for one? Use the same one?
No, I have two different lenses. Like so as an example, so if I was at that thing, I'd probably have a 100-500 on one camera body, and I'd probably have a 24-70 on the other. But I would probably say, so what I'd do is I'd shoot a lot of B-roll, so I'd wide, telephoto, people chanting, whatever, get some sound, get some people calling out stuff, and then I'd probably say, okay, Ian, and I'd say, hey, Ian, can I have a chat to you on camera about what this means for you guys to be out here protesting, right? So then I'd mic that person up, and then I'd chat to them. So I'd have them talking, and then I'd cut, and I'd probably put a, you know, and that's how I'd work. You know, it's imperfect, but you know, sometimes you'll go to something, and it's really interesting because you know they want to do video on everything, right? And I, you know, the management, and I say, and I've been, you know, I'm really big on it. I say, I love the enthusiasm, guys, but you know, there's certain things that are way better in a still picture, way better, and there's certain things that are way better video. You know, so so I said, the first thing that you've got to ask, because they love headlines, right? They love, oh, what's the angle? And I'm saying, no. When you're talking about visuals, the first thing you've got to ask is, what does it look like? You know, and what does it sound like? So if you think, oh, gee, this is really, you know, you go to a thing and there's kids learning, and you've got, the other thing is, it depends on how long something is too. So if something's really short, it's incredibly difficult to do video in stills. You're probably better off just to do a still, you know. But if the thing's going on and it's controlled and it's going on for a while, then you can do video. Like I went out and did the opening of the new Rolleston senior campus. So Rolleston College is split into two now, and year 12 and 13s are in a whole new area, 2.5 kilometres down the road. So that opened, and there was a big group, and there was speeches, and then there was the waiata, there was a haka. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm going to do some video. So I did the video of the, you know, the singing and what have you, and then I blend that in, and then I talked to a couple of students about what they think of it, and then I talk to the principal, and she says, you know, oh, this is huge for us. You know, we've been overflowing at our own, you know, and then you get a bit of, so you get footage of the new bit, and you get a bit of stuff of the old school. So when she's talking about the old school, you can have a shot of that, you know. So it's just, so it in some ways it's easier to build a story with video, and still photos, a really great still photo is fleeting, right? You know, it happens in a, you know, it's a very close thing from having a really good day to having a really bad day, you know. A classic, so I was at the, one of the music festivals just a few weeks back, and it's hot, and I'm photographing, and it's quite nice, you know, and I'm doing a bit of video, and I see this policewoman, and she's escorting this girl out, and I thought, and there was a few people in the way, and I thought, oh, shall I take that? And just, I'm thinking maybe I should take that, and just as she did this girl just went, oh, and threw up everywhere, and the policewoman went, oh, you know, and I have my camera here the whole time, I missed everything, you know, and I thought, oh God, that was a great photo, you know, like, I mean, the woman who threw up wouldn't have appreciated it, but every cop would have just died laughing, right? They would have just said, oh, that's our job, you know, right? You know? So, yeah, you know, you make decisions as you're shooting, and you know, we have to, you turn up to something, quite often it's not what you think it's going to be. So then you've got to go, okay, well, what actually is the story here? What's important? You know, what is important to people, and what's, you know, what's beautiful about this, and what's interesting. You know, you'll go to a farm, and you'll think it's just a farm, but all of a sudden they're doing a clearing sale, and he's been, you know, and it's the family's had it for 70 years, and you don't know that, and all of a sudden someone tells you that, and you go, wow, you know, and then you look for something that tells that story, you know, and that's why I just find it fascinating. You know, I've always found it really, really interesting. You know, this is a really small selection of stuff. Like, I've just got so much, and you know, I mean, you know, it's a funny old job. One day you know, hugging someone who's got cancer or whatever, and the next day someone's trying to punch you out in front of court. You know, yeah, it can be confrontational. It has, yeah.
As a press photographer,
Yeah.
Who owns the copyright on your photos you take?
That's a really good question. Well, technically, the paper does. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can use them for whatever we want, but they have the copyright. So if I'm shooting for the press and somebody wants to buy a photo, I just say, oh, look, we've got a librarian, Junior, and Jude's been there longer than I have, and she's like, yeah, no, I can sell people pictures and write, you know, like we do commercial, you know, somebody will ring. But, you know, there's certain things we won't. Like sometimes a politician will say, oh, I want a photo of those criminals coming outside court.